ClassTag is a free parent-teacher communication platform. We have some very special guests here today. I have first my colleague, Sam Hall. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi guys, for those of you that are joining us this evening, a lot of you know me. I'm Sam Hall. I have shifted from teaching 5 years, which all five of those years I was either doing hybrid or virtual, and switched over to content marketing manager to help get you guys quality content and get you some help, especially going back to school this year.
Brilliant, thank you. And we also have another very special guest from Google. We have Ryan Clark, and Ryan's going to introduce himself as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. So I'm Ryan Clark. I'm a former educator as well. I taught high school physics for about 5 years and then worked at an ed tech nonprofit before starting my work at Google for Education. And now really glad to work on supporting all of our great partners like ClassTag as they look to help teachers and students all over the world.
And as Ryan alluded to, we are a recent official Google for Education partner, and we are very excited to hear from Ryan, not only on latest developments from Google as you prepare for back to school, but how we've become a partner and how that partnership looks to support parent-teacher communication. We're going to start by Ryan just handing the microphone to you, and if you want to take it away and share with us what's happening at Google and really help our teachers as they prepare for this year.
Yeah, thanks, Marcia. So I'm just going to get started. If you can go to the next slide, Sam. So I'm going to really just get started by talking a little bit about how, actually go back one slide, sorry.
Oh,
we're going to get started.
There we go. Is that right?
Yeah, no problem. By talking about our goal at Google for Education, as we've really seen the landscape of education shift due to the impacts of COVID and driving everything to digital learning. We now really understand that there is actually a global community that we're looking to solve. And so we understand that families are important stakeholders now to really understand how learning looks very different and that technology is now being used to help support the learning environment. For teachers such as yourself, trying to find ways to not only collaborate and communicate with your students, but also thinking about other teachers and stakeholders that are a part of the learning journey to make sure you're supporting at all steps in the way. And then for students, really making sure that students have the access that they need. This might include accessibility tools that are inherently a key design principle, and we're looking at developing Chromebooks, or just thinking about preferences on the devices that remember what the student needs in order to best learn in a digital environment. And then lastly, for IT administrators, as they are true superheroes in this age, really just making it easy for them to simplify and streamline deployments, whether that be of actual devices or maybe of using ed tech tools or applications. So go on to the next slide and we'll just see some of the solutions that we have developed and we really feel are being used very effectively to help just connect and learn remotely. And when we're really thinking about how we build a really core Google for Education product, the principles that we think about are just continuing to make that really easy to use, thinking about how it can be flexible and scalable to support districts that range in size of over hundreds of thousands of students. And then also just think about how they can support collaboration. That's really key part of our principle and how we were designing G Suite and Google Classroom. And then lastly, secure by design to really ensure that you're having high security when you're leveraging G Suite and Google Classroom. You can go to the next slide. We'll take a look and see that we've really been thinking about, how do we continue to evolve our products, programs, trainings as they look to really support distance learning. And so we recently had a 48-hour international event called the Anywhere School, which I'd recommend to go and access some of the on-demand content, where we announced over 50 new product features for this back-to-school cycle. This includes a lot of great features to help support with Google Meet, really providing a lot of great teacher controls there. So if you want to have any type of synchronous learning experience or maybe record using Google Meet, a lot of great features to support you there. Additionally, we worked on a lot of new programs. So we now have a Teach for Anywhere page where we've added additional resources to support families as well as they're understanding the types of tools and resources that might be involved as their child is experiencing a distance learning classroom. And then lastly, just continuing to try and make a lot of really great training. We've really increased our teacher center with brand new content, we actually just updated brand new content around distance learning. And so I would really recommend going to the Teacher Center and seeing some of that great content we've provided for this back to school cycle. And so a couple of products just to highlight, and then I'll go into a couple of new updates for back to school for this fall. So first, G Suite for Education is what we would consider our core collaboration platform. This includes tools like Gmail, Google Docs, Google Slides, Drive, Sheets, lots of tools that help with productivity that you might be using in your classrooms. Really excited to say that we now have over 140 million students and teachers using G Suite for Education tools worldwide, and a lot of really great enhancements that we'll look at around Google Meet is just something that we think can help provide that synchronous experience as part of G Suite for Education. The next slide, you'll see that we'll look at some of the key areas that we see Google Classroom being used for. So we feel that Google Classroom is a great tool to help support teachers as they're looking to, create, grade, assess, anything that has to do with making that classroom a really great and seamless digital environment. And so we had over 100 million students and teachers now using Google Classroom to help support learning all around the world. And something that we're really proud of is that we quickly were able to add an integration with Google Meet directly into Google Classroom. So now you can easily start a virtual class session from directly within your Google Classroom class. And then on the next slide, you'll see another resource that I wanted to highlight because I think it could be really great as you're thinking about going into back to school, which is for the Chromebook App Hub. It's a great resource where it has a lot of really amazing, what we would consider idea sparks. So these can think of them as small lessons or ideas that have been submitted by educators like yourself, where you could think about great ways to enact some type of ed tech solution or tool into your practice, which is more relevant now than ever. So the Chromebook App Hub is a really great resource. I put a link there, g.co/Chromebook App Hub is a shortcut to go and check that out. But lots of really great things you can learn and immediate ideas that you can implement in your classroom as soon as tomorrow. On the next slide, you'll see some of the new features now. So like we said, we had over 50 new features be announced at the Anywhere School event. So would highly recommend going and checking out that content to see the full list of features that are going to be available. I just wanted to highlight a couple that we're really excited about. So the first is grade exports. So if your school is leveraging a student information system that leverages the One Roster standard, we'll be able to provide a solution that can help with a grade export. So this is initially being launched for schools that are using Infinite Campus, which will now allow you, if your school is using Infinite Campus, to export those grades from Classroom. So you no longer have that trouble of having to import those grades in the LMS, as well as importing them in the system of record, which I know was always a pain for me. And then if you want to go to the next feature, we'll see that we also have made some really good improvements around to-do lists for students. So we made it so that now it's really easy for students to see their to-do list directly from their classes. We think this will make it this will be really important for students as they're operating in a completely digital manner, just having a really good idea and clarity around what do I have to do for each class. So improving to-do list was something that we were really excited about to produce for this back to school cycle. And then on the next slide, you'll see that another thing we really are focusing on is just making it as easy as possible to join Classroom from wherever you might be. So for, if you're joining from a mobile device, because that's all you have access to, or if you're joining from a Chromebook, making it easy to join a class by either leveraging a class code or even a unique link is something that we improved. And then on the last product feature slide, you'll see that we've made a lot of new enhancements to Google Meet and have continued a roadmap where we're going to continue to make a lot of really great improvements here. So some of the things we've added to help as you're using Google Meet in your class, we've added knocking improvements, mute all to make sure that you're able to get attention when you need it for the class, being able to disable in-meeting chat so that there's no distractions potentially happening while you're giving any type of instructions to the class, and really trying to provide ways to block any anonymous joining or also locking improvements. Lots of new features coming as well. Lots of blog posts that talk about upcoming features to Google Meet if you're interested. And then on the last slide, so just wanted to really highlight something that Marcia mentioned earlier. So ClassTag has recently become a Google for Education initiative partner. And really what this signifies is that they've done a lot of great work in order to optimize ClassTag as a tool that works really well, whether you're using Chromebooks in the classroom or maybe on an Android device with their Play app. They've also really thought about how they're developing this solution with schools in mind. And then the last thing, if you are leveraging Google for Education products alongside ClassTag, they've made a lot of really great product integrations to make it really easy to use both tools together. So this includes things like Google Drive capabilities, as well as leveraging Google Calendar to help scheduling with Meet events, which Sam will be talking about a little bit later. But just wanted to highlight the work they've done here before I pass it over to Sam.
Ryan, thanks so much. That was really helpful. Big overview of what's happening and new developments. And also, we're very proud to be a Google for Education partner. So I'm going to let Sam also reintroduce herself for those people who have joined late. And Ryan, we'll get some questions for you at the end. If there's anyone who's in the chat that wants to throw some questions in there, feel free, and we'll get to those at the end if we have time. But Sam, if you can reintroduce yourself and talk specifically around the Google and ClassTag integration.
Sure. So for those of you that are joining us, my name is Sam Hall. I'm the Content and Product Marketing Manager for ClassTag. I was a teacher for 5 years, 3 of which were virtual, and then the other 2 were hybrid in the classroom with a full computer lab. So I feel your pain if you're going back remotely or even hybrid. I've been there, I get it. So ClassTag, for those of you that are joining us that maybe are not familiar with ClassTag, or if you are, this is a perfect reminder of what we do. We are a parent-teacher engagement platform. We truly want to get into families, and we want to be in the beating heart of every classroom and make sure that there's a real community that goes on outside of just the classroom, because we know that a lot of learning goes on at home. So we do that through a lot of different things. We do that through direct messages, classroom announcements. We help coordinate events. You're able to share videos, and with a lot of our new things, really great videos from YouTube, thanks to some of our integrations with Google. We have volunteer signups, and we do parent-teacher conferences and supply lists. So for those of you, this is a great picture of what we do and some happy teachers. We're happy to have you guys on board, and we're always free. I just want to keep that in mind. I know that as a lot of you are going back to school, you might not have the resources to buy any ed tech or additional supplies. And the cool thing about Google Classroom and ClassTag is that we're both free, and that's what we do. And a lot of you might ask why are we the perfect companions for each other? And Google Classroom truly helps you get all those daily tasks that you need as an educator done. It helps you create classes and distribute assignments, whereas ClassTag comes in as your parent teacher, your hero for that. We reach every parent. We have direct communication with parents, and I'm going to tell you like a really exciting piece of news on that. We do announcements, and we do a lot of event coordination that works very well with what you're doing in the classroom for Google. So reaching every parent, we do it with or without the app, which is one of the magic things that we do. We are just announced today that we have Google Classroom roster import. So if you go to create a ClassTag account and you start a classroom, you can import all of your students straight from Google Classroom right into ClassTag, making it super easy so you don't have to sit there and duplicate your efforts. We know how hard it is, so we're trying to make it easy for you. And parents, they get to choose the communication channel, which is, we found the way that's really how we can get to every parent, is that they get to pick the way that they're communicated with. If they don't have a smartphone, you can still get to them. Maybe you can send them home paper, or even better, you can still text them. So there's a bunch of different ways we can get in touch with parents, and that's one of the magical things about ClassTag. And for those of you that are trying to keep parents on, trying to figure out what parents are really hard to reach, we have read receipts, and we actually have like a whole stats page. So it tells you those parents that are not receiving communications or events and they haven't responded. You can kind of pinpoint who you're having a hard time with, and maybe give them a extra phone call or check in on them, because we know this is a hard time for that, for even parents going back. So connecting with direct messaging, and I do want to say, like, that you can see the coming soon right there. We are really working hard to bring to you late this fall, coming soon, having direct messaging right within Google Classroom. We know how hard it is keeping parents, coordinated and understanding what's going on. So we make sure we give you 60+ languages to translate into, so you can connect with those parents directly and talk with them and make sure that they are okay and good to go on their students' education. And so getting into the good stuff, the stuff we really connect with Google, the G Suite of tools on, we can connect easily through announcements. You can tell your whole class something all at once, and you can embed YouTube videos. You can directly link any kind of photos or documents you want them to know, instead of having to leave the platform and trying to find where you put, that, it could be anything. I know how I am with photos. They could end up anywhere on my computer. You can pull them directly from your drive, right from ClassTag. Such an easy way and convenient way without ever having to leave the platform. And events. So I want to give teachers 2 good tips going back to school. We have, like the big thing we did in virtual school was welcome calls, and ClassTag has the best way to coordinate that. You can do parent-teacher conferences. Don't have to be just parent-teacher conferences. They can be welcome calls or check-ins. So you can just go ahead and coordinate what schedule works for you, open some time slots, and then you can have people go back, or parents go back, pick a time slot that works for them. It automatically syncs with their Google Calendar and adds a meet link. So there's no confusion. Everyone knows where they need to be and when they need to be there. And a remote teacher night. So a lot of you are coming up, and teachers or parents are not allowed on property. So you are going to have to do a remote meet the teacher night, and that's going to be how you're going to have to do it, which is totally okay, because we can just link it right to Meet and link it right to your Google Calendar as well. So keeping all those events streamlined, parents aren't going to be confused. They know where to go, and they know the link to get there. And one of our favorite features of our ClassTag teachers is our quick links. So one of the cool features that you can do when you join ClassTag is that right underneath where it says, hey, this is my classroom, you get to put all your favorite links in there, including anything from how-to videos. You can put your Google Classroom link in there, so there's no confusion for parents. They know exactly where to go when you're referencing something. And you can even pin announcements to keep those really like high-level things that are important for your classroom right at the top, no confusion. Great for parents, because I know that parents on the go and teachers on the go, sometimes we kind of forget things, but it's all at the top. And one of the great things that we came up with in the last couple of months is our library, which is basically our communication hub. Our resource hub. So you have a classroom library full of resources, and you can pull those resources directly from Google Drive again, and parents can actually pull it directly from Google Drive as well. So you guys can share documents back and forth, pictures of kids at home or kids in the classroom, and share moments and time of what's going on during school. So we invite everyone to go back to school strong. It doesn't matter if you're going back face-to-face or you're going back remotely or hybrid. We're here to help you, and that's really why we do these workshops, is that we truly want to get you guys valuable information going back to school. And Marcia, yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. That's great. We definitely have a number of questions in the chat and popping up, but first I just wanted to share with everybody that who's been asking, yes, you can get access to this video, access to the visuals after. It's going to be saved on ClassTag's Facebook page under our video section, and it's going to be available also on our YouTube channel. It's very easy to access after. But we've got a number of questions for both you, Ryan and Sam. Sam, I'm going to actually just ask you one first. If you can clarify, what exactly does this mean with the importing of the roster and importing students? Because what we know about ClassTag is it's a parent-teacher communication platform. So can you just clarify what you mean there?
Sure. So, the thing about parents even is that everything starts with students, right? That's how we think as teachers. So in Google Classroom, you probably already have a class made with a bunch of kids in there. All you have to do is go to ClassTag, start a new class, go to your directory, and we can probably Slack a help page to help you guys out, or not Slack, I'm sorry, just message a help page to give you guys a little bit of help. But all you have to do is import all the kids' names, and then you can just add the parent contacts nice and easy.
Thanks. Ryan, one of the questions for you has been really around, well, one specifically has been, I'm new to all of this and it's overwhelming, and where do I begin? Where can I go on the Google site to just get the basics covered as I prepare for how school's going to look, whether perhaps in her case it's remote, I'm not sure, but if you can just help teachers as a starting point who are feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think one of the key resources I would look at is the Teach from Anywhere page. It provides resources that are good for teachers, good for administrators at your school, good for parents even. And then we have a really robust teacher center as well. And there's all sorts of certification programs you can do. There's Google certified educator courses and just resources that you can use to get you quickly started on leveraging any tool, whether it be Google Classroom, Google Drive, Google Meet, whatever you might need to use in order to help best support distance learning in your class.
Thanks. So we'll make sure to drop that in the chat. And Sam, wondering also if you can speak to, you shared a lot with us. I'm wondering if you can kind of condense that down a little bit more. What is really, to put it in a nutshell, what is one key strength of ClassTag? How does it help teachers?
Right. So I think at the end of the day, we truly are a parent-teacher engagement platform. We really want to get to parents and get that relationship and that community involvement and really getting everyone on the same page to help a student. Because we know as educators, because all of us talking right now have been educators at some point, that parent involvement really does truly help student achievement at the end of the day.
Ryan, you had some more complicated questions. I'm not sure how detailed you want to get into them, or feel free to jump in as well, Sam. One of the questions is around LMS, learning management systems, and I think it's just a big picture question. Perhaps if you have any general comments on how Google integrates, or what is an LMS and how is it different, if you can take that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to address that. So Google Classroom is a learning management system that Google provides that helps with management of assignments, management of grades for students. Your school might be using other platforms, maybe like Schoology or Canvas or Moodle as well. So, Google for Education products are really intended to help you where you are with what you might need support for. So if you are not using Google Classroom as a way to help manage and support with your students, you might want to look at an update around the assignment functionality that we released, which is a way that you could actually really easily use G Suite from within any learning management system that your school might be using. So if your school is not leveraging Google Classroom as a way to help kind of support the assignment and being able to grade and assess students, you can certainly still get really good use out of different Google for Education tools by leveraging the assignment tool.
Thanks. And this is a question for either one of you. I'm just going to read it from Steph, and she says, can assignments posted on Google Classroom for students get linked to ClassTag for parent notification?
So right now, no, but I know that our development team is really thinking about, next steps that they want to take and what to develop next. So, feel free to drop that to user support. We'd love to hear ideas that you guys have or what features you'd love to see, especially connecting Google Classroom with ClassTag. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that answers a little bit of the question.
And happy to echo that for Sam as well. Our development team works very hard to take, as does Google's, as Brian has shared with us, take back that user feedback, that teacher feedback, that student feedback, and build what you actually need. The last question as we wrap up, because we're looking at time here, is for both of you. It's a really important question, and it's a question we should all reflect on. What is one key thing that you want all teachers and even families to know as they prepare for back to school or as they head back, however that may look?
Yeah, Ryan, I'll let you take it first.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question, Marcia. I think just to know that the Google for Education team is really dedicated to helping you. So whether you're an educator, a school, a family, and so we're trying to provide resources as best we can in order to help you during these challenging learning times. So the best places I would say to get started and where we have resources for families and teachers is to go to the Teach from Anywhere page, which I talked about a little earlier, or we also created a COVID response site. So you can go to g.co/edu/COVID-19 and you can learn lots of information, whether it just be best practices or just how to get you started on your distance learning journey.
That's great. Yeah, and for us at ClassTag, I know that the biggest thing for us is coming together as a community, helping teachers and students and parents go back to school strong, and making sure that, we're doing it together, because it's not going to get done otherwise. We've got to come together and get it done. So, make it happen, guys, this year. I know it's a different year, but we can do it as educators and people trying to really help you. I know Google and ClassTag, we both are really here to support you guys.
Absolutely. I see that all over the place of companies, brands, teachers, families coming together. It's a really special environment we've created. So just to wrap up, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming and joining us. Thank you for the partnership. We are very proud and excited to work with you and partner with you.
My pleasure. Yeah, and thank you for having me. Hope there were some helpful resources, and great to see the ways in which you can use Google for Education and ClassTag to support your classroom.
Perfect. So if you are on the Facebook group, if you're on the YouTube channel, if you're on the Twitter stream, or if you're watching us another day at another time, we're going to wrap up. If you are on the Zoom call, feel free to stay on a little longer if there's any specific questions you have for Sam or Ryan. Throughout the next 24 to 48 hours, we will monitor the chat and Facebook. If there are any questions that you have, please post them in there and we'll absolutely get to them within the next short while. Thanks. So one was, does the parent see when you read a message? Sometimes I read it quickly, but I want to keep it as new to answer later. So
for ClassTag?
Within ClassTag, yeah.
Right, so parents, yeah, you're gonna get a read receipt from them. And there is no way to like unmark it as read. So when they see it, they see it. So I don't know, I see what they're trying to say. But as a teacher, I think it's important to know, even if they've glanced at it, it might be important to know that they're logging in at the very least.
Mm-hmm. And then on the teacher side of thing, I guess you can set office hours should you not want to be always logged in and whatnot.
Right. And that's a great, actually, I'm so sorry, I kind of almost misunderstood your question. For you as a teacher, put on your office hours and give yourself a break. We have office hours, use them, you deserve the time off.
Absolutely. We have, any advice for younger education companies, and how do they think about building partnership in the future with Google as they develop their companies?
Yeah, it's a great question, Marcia. So in terms of Google for Education, we definitely are supportive of looking to work with edtech companies like our work with ClassTag. So we have a lot of open APIs that are free and available to use. So if you want to add functionalities into your platform, that might be things that are already being used by customers that are using Google Classroom, for example, or they're using Google Drive. And that way you might not have to build out some of those functionalities on your own platform and really focus on the core value that you're providing your customers. That's really a recommendation that I would have. Another way I would say a lot of startups are getting support from Google for Education is looking at how they can leverage Google Cloud Platform. So those are kind of two key ways that we're committed to helping provide support. I would encourage you to go to the Google Cloud Partner Advantage page if you want to learn more about becoming a Google partner.
Yeah, and I have to take this one last question, and I promise we wrap up. The question is for schools that have 6, 7, or more classrooms. How does this work? Can ClassTag integrate with schools that have multiple classrooms, not just one teacher? Sam, I'll hand that to you.
Yeah. So we are great for school-wide. We're great for just teams, great teams. You as, if you're a middle school teacher or high school teacher, if you want to have multiple classrooms and want to send announcements to all of them at once, you can do that. ClassTag is built for any scenario pretty much. And if you're looking for like a high level, like district level or even school level, we have a whole team of people who work with you to get you going on that. And
feel free to email myself at marcia@classtag.com. I'll make sure your question gets to the right folks, or we have support@classtag.com and tons of information on our help page. You can hear outside I've got some lightning starting up and it got really dark. So on that note, let's just wrap up, and everything again is available on the ClassTag Facebook page under events and videos. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening, guys.